Hi, this is my review of Holdfast East Front 1941 to 45, published by Worthington Games. It's part of their Holdfast series of games. If we have a look at the back, this is a block game and is two players suitable for solitaire play. I would agree with that. Playing time 2 to 5 hours for the full campaign, 1 to 3 hours for individual scenarios. Complexity 3 out of 10, and yeah, agree with that too. So first up, let's have a look at the rulebook. There aren't many pages of rules, and if you've played any of the games in this series, you'll be instantly familiar. This is a low complexity game. The rulebook talks you through components, the terrain, the 1941 setup, which is sort of the main game setup, I would say, sequence of play, how to use resource points. It's generally pretty well written, I would say. There are a few examples of play. Combat's very straightforward, so is supply. In particular, I'll point note that this game, unlike some of the other games in the series, this has a few different scenarios that are really great. So you've got scenarios for 42, Kursk, and the destruction of Army Group Centre, for example. And it gives you your reinforcement schedule as well. And then finally some player notes. So overall, well written. I've played all the games in this series, so I think this is one of the first games I got. I don't remember really struggling with any of the rules. It is pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. So next up, the player aid. You get two of these. They're double-sided. One side for the Russian, one side for the German. Very straightforward. Tells you your reinforcements, the dice you need in combat and what you need to roll to hit, movement points, how you use the resource points and all the different types of terrain. Nice, clear, yeah, good stuff. So next up, the map. The contents of the hexes are very clear. It's very clear what the terrain is, which is great. You get some player aid stuff at the top of the map. As you can see, I've laid the blocks out down. Normally you'd be playing this with a fog of war against your opponent, so the blocks are one-sided, so your opponent doesn't see contents of the block if you're playing it two-player. As you can see, the Germans, the grey blocks, have a massive advantage at the beginning, and they're going to push their way across the map. The objectives: Stalingrad, Moscow, Leningrad, Sevastopol here at the bottom of the map. The blocks are hard-wearing, the stickers are pretty good. The contents of the blocks very clear, very easy to read game. So yeah, and the map's mounted map. I've had this game pretty much since it came out. Played it numerous times. So yeah, it's done well, and yeah, high quality components, I would say, overall. So what do I like about this game? I would say all the mechanics are very straightforward. So movement. You have a movement points per block, depending on what the block is. So if it's infantry, it's got a movement point of 4, and the player aid tells you the movement cost for the different types of hexes. Very, very, very straightforward. Combat is equally straightforward. So if you have let's say we have these two blocks here, the player aid tells you how many dice you're going to roll, what you need to hit, and it's once you've played the game for 5 minutes, you'll understand combat's very, very, very simple. The resource points are a neat mechanic. I like those. You have a number of resource points per turn, and you use those resource points to move, to engage in combat, to replace lost blocks, or to replace casualties on the block. So as you take casualties, you rotate the block around to show you the strength of that block, and use resource points to build them back up. It's a neat mechanic. It works very well. It's very streamlined and very straightforward. From a sort of tactics point of view, this is an East Front game. Generally speaking, the German forces are going to have a good time of it at the beginning as they push their way across the map. The Russians have a way more reinforcements than the Germans. Like 2 to 1 more reinforcements, something like that. And what will happen is, as the German player tries to go for Leningrad, Moscow, Stalingrad, the Russian player will be able to bring those reinforcements and start pushing them back. Generally, I found the game very straightforward to play, streamlined mechanics. There's a lot of emphasis on decision making for the player because you don't have enough resource points to do everything that you want to do, and the tide will move from the advantage of the German player to the advantage of the Soviet player. I have generally found it can give very historical, accurate results, which is engaging and is my particular interest. And you can play most of the scenarios in an evening, so you can comfortably play this in just over an hour, maybe a little bit longer. Doesn't take too long to play the scenarios. And yeah, like I said, very streamlined, very straightforward game to play. And because it doesn't take too long to play, you can play several games in an evening, trying out different tactics as you want. So I've enjoyed all the games in this series. I think this is one. If you look at people's reviews of this is one of the games in the series that people like the most. I think that is because there are numerous scenarios to play. There's enough historical depth to the game to make it interesting for people who are interested in the history. And I've thoroughly enjoyed playing it both two player and playing it solitaire. You're going to lose something playing it solitaire because you know the contents of the blocks, whereas if you're playing it two player, you wouldn't know that. But even so, I still find it an engaging, fast flowing game of decision making that you can play in an evening. So if you like this series of games from Worthington, this is one of the best in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed playing it. I enjoy playing games about the East Front, even though I know what the outcome is going to probably be. I still enjoy playing games on the East Front. And yeah, a fun, high quality component game to play in an evening with a friend or play on your own solitaire. And yeah, that's good. Great stuff. So thanks for watching as ever.